What It Takes Radio Company invites you to join us for another Transformation Zone conversation on this special Friday. Yes, on this Good Friday, could I tell you about some of the wisdom of Pontius Pilate? Well, greetings once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stan, Radio Man, maybe the Transformation Man. At least that's one of my aspirations, and this is Friday. And on Friday, we oftentimes go into the Transformation Zone for a conversation. And I say not only is Friday Transformation Zone Day, but it's also a leadership day because one of the goals of leaders could be that they really are in the business of helping people transform their lives and business as best they can. And it's also Future Day. I had one very strong mentor who said that he told all of his staff that he wanted them to pretty much have the work done by Friday. And by Friday, he wanted the only things that he would want to talk to them about would be strategy, how we'll be better in the future. He said, I don't want to talk about the problems. I want to talk about the future on Friday. So Friday was always a day for, you may say, future conversations. I always thought that was a pretty good idea. So I would like to do a little bit of both right today, and that title was meant to catch your attention, but let me see if I can make it worthwhile and not come across as a wise guy. And a wise guy is not necessarily a wise man. The wisdom of Pontius Pilate. Well, let's see how we can get there. First of all, here we are on Good Friday. And as I told one of my audiences a number of years ago, I was asked to do a radio program. I was in Europe working with another organization, but I had some good friends in Radio Netherlands. It was the worldwide service of the Netherlands. And she asked me, she said, Stan, come on over to the studio on Friday, and I want you to do a conversation on why do they call it good? She said, what's good about Good Friday? And I said, good question. I remember I did that. It was many years ago. I'm not so sure that what I said was right or true, and I can't quite remember it. But it seemed to work for her that even in that we could use the word good to describe something that might have come out of this rather terrible day. But let me see if I can do it this way. First of all, I've oftentimes said that in the story of the Easter weekend, even if you were a non-believer and you really weren't interested, it's an incredible study in group psychology, human nature, the way the world works, the way it operates, all of the things, the power of a mighty empire, a ruler, a rebel, you name it. There is an entire leadership lesson that you could bring forward from the story of this day. And the character of Judas is the one that's oftentimes portrayed. Now, for many, many, many years, many, many organizations, many, many writers have tried to see if they could give why did Judas do it? The rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar many years ago from my young time kind of tried to tell why did he do that? And it'll be interesting to see how the people who've done The Chosen, how they will do that. We've seen the emergence of Judas as a complicated, let's take him down character, not really very happy about what the Romans were and maybe had a little different agenda than Jesus did. But that has also been something we could speculate about. I was also reminded one time of a man who did a very, this is a childhood thing again, the story of Barabbas, the thief who was set free rather than executed. They had a choice. Do you want me to free Jesus or do you want me to free Barabbas, who supposedly was a rebel, perhaps a terrorist and a killer? And they took Barabbas. And there was where this characters. He came back from the Netherlands, the Neverlands, and who knows whether it was heaven or hell. And he told the story of what happened to him because Jesus died in his place. And of course, there were spiritual applications that came out of that. Another one actually said that he came back from heaven because he told the story as if maybe later on, we don't hear anything about him, that he may have become a follower of Jesus. And goes from there that maybe that could have been the case. And that was an interesting story. But again, these were stories. They were historical fiction. But here we come to the story of Pilate, and particularly the confrontation between Pilate and Jesus. And of course, we've got Herod. I mean, as I said, it's a complicated story which illustrates human frailty and fault and foolishness to the nth degree. But I've always pointed out, and this always got me in a bit of trouble, where I've said that actually, if you want to figure out the world, Pilate asked one of the best questions ever. Pilate asked the question. And Pilate made the statement. Now, that's recorded. I'm asking some of you who know, who do you think, what was the question? And what was the statement? Now, the scene plays itself out, and it seems by this time Jesus truly knows what's up. And though we are thought in the prayer the night before, where he kind of pleads with God the Father, hey, is there a plan B? Maybe I'll do your will, but maybe we could make it. And of course, he realizes that he has to go through with that. But because he's also fully man as well as fully God, he can have some of those thoughts, And he's quite young. One person speculated. They said, "I wonder what would Jesus have done if maybe God would have allowed him to live till 53 rather than 33? What would he have done in those 20 years? He still could have died on the cross as Savior, Redeemer, but what would it be like if he were a little bit older?" That's that's speculation. We all know that when we were 30s and when we were 50s and when we are 70s, that we were quite different. Again, fanciful, but thoughtful, but I hope holy imagination. Well, it seems by this time Jesus is fearless. He really has come to the point. He's not afraid. And there is a statement where Pilate asks him, "So they say you are the king of the Jews?" And the King James and other refined versions have kind of put it like Jesus said, "Well, that's what you say." Well, as one of my friends pointed out, it was more like Jesus said, "You said it." He kind of threw it back in his face. "You said it. Yeah, that's what I am." But for the most part, he kept quiet. He just kept quiet. There is great power in quietness, even in the most difficult times. There was strength and there was character, and Pilate knew it. Pilate knew it, that he was dealing with somebody who outclassed him both in character and strength and courage. And he particularly didn't like that, but he certainly must have sensed it. And then, of course, he has his wife who's got these nightmares. His wife is saying, don't mess with this. And eventually Pilate says, okay, but I'm not guilty of this. You guys are. It's your fault. And of course, the proverbial washing his hands. Okay, do what you want with him, but it's not my deal. Sound like leaders throughout history? It's not my fault. It's their fault. But in one of the conversations, the subject comes to truth, and then Pilate asks the question, what is truth? The question. And oftentimes I try and when I coach leaders and coach executives, I say, okay, what is true? Right now, you are going to seek to be a leader, and perhaps you should tell your followers, maybe you should tell maybe your superiors, what do you think is really true about the world? How does the world work? Tell us a little bit about your worldview. How do you make decisions about what is true and what is false? What is true? And of course, unfortunately, in many cases, Pilate is speaking for modern men. Hey, you've got your truth. I got my truth. What is truth? It's whatever someone says it is. There is no truth. A lot of people believe that. I don't. Um, people can have things they believe are true, but I think there are things that are true, and there are things that are false. But it is the question that we're confronted with on this transformation day. As we walk away from the day, remember, Pilate said, what is true? What is truth? And that's for you to figure out. That's what we all have to figure out on this day. Is this just some crazy, gone crazy lynching party? Which, of their course, there have been thousands and hundreds of thousands. Or was there something much more significant about what happened on that day? So, what is truth? You're going to go through a variety of, if you're a follower of the tradition, you'll have your Good Friday. I'll be going to one at noon. One of those noon to 3, 7 o'clock tonight, and then we enter into, at least in the tradition of many of us, what is called Quiet Saturday or Holy Saturday or Vigil Saturday, when of course there is no record in the record of what really happened. Of course, what it would have been is the day of the Sabbath day. And so particularly in the Jewish society, it would have been you're doing what you're supposed to do on Sabbath. Nothing. No work, nothing. And so that's why the women had to wait until Sunday morning to try and go in and bury the body of Jesus. And that's when things took a real plot twist, didn't they? Oftentimes when we talk about transformations, we talk about the plot twist. The story all of a sudden goes. By the way, it's good writing. If you're involved in drama or radio and television like I am, you sometimes like to just kind of twist the plot a bit. Keeps people a little bit off balance, creates a little bit of mystery. So that's what happened. But finally, at the end, Pilate made this statement. I guess Moise call it, "Ete hombre." Behold the man. That's what Pilate said. One of the most significant statements in human history. Great wisdom. Accidental, perhaps for sure, maybe real for sure for him. I don't know. We don't, supposedly his story ended tragically, but we don't know what happened fully. But he made the statement, behold the man, not a man, the man for all ages, the man for all stages, the master of the universe, the man. Behold the man. Well, one of the things that encourages me as I go through my life is that I can say, the man's on my side. The man's on my side. So I can, twist my glasses and be a little bit straighten things up, see a little bit clearer, because the man's on my side. Whose side are you on? Who do you belong to? Today we celebrate the wisdom of Pontius Pilate, who asked, what is truth? And who said, behold the man. Best and blessings to you. I trust this will be a time of new discoveries. Maybe this will be a weekend. You've maybe done this hundreds of times. It seems like not many of you have done that, but you've gone through this, this Easter thing a number of times. Could it be this time that there might be a real transformation, a new awakening, a new way of seeing, maybe a new way of being that just might happen this time, as you are aware that the story is about, indeed, the power and the mystery of the man. All the best to you. Thank you for taking time to hear a little bit of my radio rant. If I can be helpful to you in life and business, I think I give pretty good guidance most of the time in life and business. Someone said, you're not really a coach, Stan. You're more of a guidance person. So maybe that's right. Stan at witradio.net, Stan at witradio.net. Reach out to me, and we speak, we present, we coach. Whatever you're looking for in terms of helping you with life and business, I think at least I can help you in some way. And if I can't, I probably know somebody who can. Take care. Best and blessings because of the man. Bye for now.